If you talk, I'll destroy your life. Say no and I'll erase you from this earth. That's what the billionaire CEO said to her after she asked one question he couldn't answer. What he didn't know was that this conversation would trigger the investigation that would send him to prison. 3 days later, the police are looking for her because she is the only person who can prove he stole $1 billion technology and silenced its creators. Now she has one choice: testify or disappear. Welcome to Wacky Storytime TV, where real-life drama, dark twists, emotional betrayals, and unbelievable moments come to life through powerful storytelling. If you haven't already, smash that subscribe button right now because this story is about to get insane. Like and comment below too. What do you think is going to happen next? Let's find out. Marcus Sterling sat at his reserved table at Beacon Coffee, staring at his laptop screen with the kind of desperation that comes from watching everything you've built start to crumble in real time. His hands trembled as he refreshed the internal company chat for the 100th time that morning. The numbers didn't lie. The technology that was supposed to revolutionize distributed ledger architecture had a fatal flaw in its token distribution velocity. 18 months of development, $50 million invested, and his entire technical team, the smartest engineers money could buy, couldn't figure out how to fix it. The board meeting was in 3 days. His investors were getting nervous. The media was starting to sniff around. And tonight, he had a blind date scheduled with someone his publicist insisted would help repair his image. A strategic connection to a powerful family. A distraction from the impending disaster. A lie wrapped in champagne and hope. He needed a miracle. He needed someone brilliant enough to solve the impossible. He needed someone before his company stopped existing on paper. The chair across from him scraped against the floor. Marcus looked up, ready to correct whoever had just sat down at his reserved table, but something made him pause. The woman had dark eyes, focused and intense, with her laptop already open and her fingers flying across the keyboard like she was wrestling with something that mattered. Not scrolling social media, not pretending to work, actually working, actually solving something. "Excuse me," Marcus said, his voice sharp from weeks of stress. "This table is reserved." Zara froze mid-keystroke. She looked up, embarrassed, already reaching for her bag. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't see the sign. There's literally no other tables and I really need to finish this thought before it disappears and—" "Wait!" The word came out before Marcus could stop it. Desperation had a way of overriding every social protocol he'd ever learned. "What are you working on?" She studied him for a moment, trying to figure out if he was genuinely interested or just being polite. Most people weren't genuinely interested. Most people asked questions they didn't care about the answers to. But something about this man's intensity suggested he actually wanted to know. "Nothing that would interest you," she said, pulling her laptop closer to her body protectively. "Just a technical problem, one that probably doesn't have a solution, which is making it harder to decide if I should take a job with a company that clearly doesn't understand it." Marcus leaned forward. Every instinct screamed at him to stay quiet, to protect his crisis, to not spill company secrets to a stranger. But he was running out of options. He was running out of time. And something about her confidence suggested she might actually understand what he needed her to understand. "Try me," he said. Zara hesitated, then tilted her laptop slightly so he could see the code on her screen. "I had an interview with a tech consulting firm today. They asked me about distributed ledger architecture, specifically about scaling it without sacrificing security protocols. Their answer was completely wrong, but if I pointed that out, they'd think I was difficult. If I didn't point it out, I'd be working with people who fundamentally misunderstood the problem." Marcus felt his chest tighten. It was like she was reading his diary. "What was their solution?" he asked carefully, keeping his voice steady. "Adding redundancy in the verification layer," Zara said, frustration evident in her tone. "It's a band-aid. It doesn't address the real issue, which is token distribution velocity. You can't scale a system that way. The bottleneck isn't in the verification, it's in how the tokens move through the network. They're trying to fix the symptom instead of the disease. Marcus stood up so fast his chair nearly fell backward. People at nearby tables glanced over. He didn't care. He didn't care about anything except the fact that this stranger had just articulated in 2 minutes what his 50-person technical team had failed to solve in 18 months. "What's your name?" he demanded. "Zara Chen. Look, I appreciate the interest, but I don't want to talk shop right now. I'm trying to decide if I even want that job, and honestly, I'm a little freaked out by how intense you just got." "Zara, I need you to listen to me very carefully," Marcus said, his voice dropping to something urgent and controlled. "The exact problem you just described, the token distribution velocity issue, that's been destroying my company for the last year and a half. My entire technical team has been trying to solve it. We've spent millions of dollars, millions. And you just articulated the real problem in 30 seconds while sitting at a coffee shop." Zara's eyes widened. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Who are you? Someone who's about to change your life, or someone whose life you're about to save? I honestly don't know which yet." Marcus pulled out his phone. "What's your number?" "I'm not giving my number to a stranger," Zara said, but she wasn't reaching for her bag anymore. She wasn't leaving. "Fair enough. Then let me tell you who I am so we're not strangers anymore." He sat back down, making himself smaller, less threatening, but his intensity never wavered. "My name is Marcus Sterling. I'm the CEO of Sterling Technologies, and that problem you just solved in your head, the one your interview panel got wrong, it's worth $50 million to me if you can actually fix it." The color drained from Zara's face. She knew who Marcus Sterling was. Everyone knew who Marcus Sterling was. The tech prodigy who'd built an empire before he turned 30. The billionaire who was quietly imploding according to every industry blog she'd read. The man whose company's stock price had dropped 15% in the last 2 months while the media speculated about internal chaos. "You're lying," she whispered. "I'm not. I'm desperate, which is why I'm about to propose something insane." Marcus leaned back, running his hand through his hair. "Come work for me. Full time. Starting Monday. Six-figure salary, stock options, complete autonomy over the technical architecture, and a team of 50 engineers ready to implement whatever solution you come up with." Zara's hands were shaking. This was insane. This was a trap. This was exactly the kind of too-good-to-be-true scenario her mother had warned her about since she was a kid. Too good to be true meant it definitely was. But something about Marcus's desperation felt genuine. Something about the way he looked at her like she was the only person who could save him made the offer feel real. "Why me?" she asked. "You could hire anyone in Silicon Valley, anyone with a track record, anyone with credentials." "Because anyone in Silicon Valley would be afraid to tell me I'm wrong," Marcus said simply. "You wouldn't. You'd look at a problem and see it clearly. You wouldn't let ego or politics or fear of losing your job stop you from saying what needs to be said. I need that. My company needs that." "I need to think about it," Zara said, but her voice was shaking. "You have until tomorrow," Marcus said, standing up and placing his business card on the table in front of her. "After that, I'm hearing someone else, and you'll spend the rest of your career wondering what would have happened if you'd said yes." He walked out of the coffee shop without waiting for her response. Zara sat alone at his table, his business card in her trembling hands, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. She had just met Marcus Sterling by accident. He had offered her a job that could change everything. And something about the whole interaction felt wrong in a way she couldn't quite articulate. It felt too convenient, too perfect, like the beginning of something that would end badly. She pulled out her phone and opened Google. Marcus Sterling's face filled her screen, sharp features, intense eyes, the kind of smile that looked like it cost him effort. News articles about Sterling Technologies dominated the results. Articles about innovation. Articles about his company's recent acquisition of a smaller startup called Neurotech Solutions. articles about layoffs, articles about failed projects. And then she found something else. A buried Reddit post from 3 weeks ago. A former neurotech employee talking about how Sterling Technologies had acquired their company under mysterious circumstances. Talking about how the founders had suddenly disappeared from public view. Talking about stolen intellectual property and forced NDAs and money changing hands in the middle of the night. Zara's stomach twisted. She read the post again and again. The employee had been vague about details, but the implications were clear. Something had happened at Neurotech, something that Marcus Sterling didn't want people to know about. She looked at his business card again, then at her reflection in her laptop screen, then back at the card. She had just become the most dangerous person in his life because she knew his secret before she even knew it was a secret. And tomorrow, she would have to decide if she wanted to walk into the spider's web or run as far away as possible. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "It's Marcus. I realized I never actually got your contact information. I hope you'll call me tomorrow, please." Zara stared at the message for a long time. She didn't respond. Instead, she opened her laptop and started researching everything she could find about Marcus Sterling, Sterling Technologies, and the company he'd supposedly saved. The deeper she dug, the more the pieces of a very dark puzzle started to come together. And she realized that Marcus Sterling hadn't chosen her by accident at all. He'd chosen her because she was smart enough to solve his problem, and naive enough not to ask the right questions about why he really needed her. Zara didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, diving deeper into every article, every rumor, every piece of information she could find about Marcus Sterling and Sterling Technologies. Her apartment was small, a studio in Brooklyn that she could barely afford on unemployment benefits, but it had become her investigative war room. Empty coffee cups accumulated on the table. Her eyes burned from staring at the screen, but she couldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. The Neurotech acquisition was the key. She found the original press release from 18 months ago. Sterling Technologies acquiring Neurotech Solutions for what was officially listed as $30 million. The announcement was brief, corporate, sterile. It talked about synergies and innovation and the future of distributed systems. It didn't talk about the three founders of Neurotech who had suddenly vanished from LinkedIn. It didn't talk about the company's groundbreaking research into token distribution architecture. It didn't talk about how Neurotech had been developing the exact technology that Marcus Sterling needed to save his company. She found an old TechCrunch article from before the acquisition. Neurotech had been the hot startup. Venture capital firms were fighting over funding. The three founders, Dr. James Park, Sarah Okonkwo, and Michael Chen, were being touted as the next generation of blockchain revolutionaries. Their research was cutting edge. Their potential was limitless. And then overnight they were gone. Zara found their personal social media accounts. Their last posts were from the day before the Sterling Technologies acquisition was announced. Then silence. Complete radio silence. No Instagram updates. No LinkedIn activity. No public appearances. It was like they'd fallen off the face of the earth. She searched for interviews. Found one from a tech podcast that had been recorded 3 months before the acquisition. The three founders were excited, brilliant, talking about their vision for scaling distributed ledger systems without sacrificing security. They talked about token distribution velocity like it was the holy grail. They talked about being on the verge of a breakthrough that would change everything. Zara paused the podcast and leaned back in her chair. The breakthrough they'd been talking about, the one about token distribution velocity, that was exactly what Marcus Sterling needed. That was exactly what he'd said his company had been trying to solve for 18 months. That was exactly what Zara had figured out in 30 seconds at a coffee shop. Which meant Marcus Sterling had stolen it from Neurotech. Which meant the three founders probably knew. Which meant something had happened to make them disappear. Her phone buzzed. Another text from Marcus. Good morning. I hope you slept well. I'm thinking about you, about what you could do for my company. Call me when you're ready, please. Zara didn't respond. Instead, she kept digging. She found a lawsuit that had been filed and then quietly settled. A confidentiality agreement signed by all three neurotech founders. Bank records, or at least hints of bank records in financial gossip columns, suggesting that significant money had changed hands. One article mentioned that Dr. James Park had suddenly purchased a property in Costa Rica. Another mentioned that Sarah Okonkwo had dropped out of public life entirely. They'd been paid off, they'd been silenced, and Marcus Sterling had stolen their life's work. Zara felt sick. She'd been so impressed by him, so drawn to his desperation, so convinced that he was genuinely brilliant and just needed the right person to help him. But he was a thief. He was a man who'd taken other people's innovation and claimed it as his own. He was a man who'd made brilliant people disappear. And he wanted her to help him cover it up. Because that's what the offer really was, wasn't it? He didn't need her to solve the token distribution velocity problem. The solution was already stolen from neurotech. He needed her to help him implement it without anyone knowing where it came from. He needed her to be complicit in his crime. He needed her to be his inside person, his accomplice, his insurance policy against anyone who might figure out the truth. Her phone rang. It was Marcus. Zara stared at the phone for 3 rings before answering. She needed to sound normal. She needed to sound interested. She needed to sound like she hadn't spent the entire night uncovering his secrets. "Hello," she answered, keeping her voice neutral. "Zara, thank God," Marcus said, and he sounded genuinely relieved. "I've been going crazy all night. I couldn't stop thinking about our conversation, about you. I need you to say yes. I need you to come work for me, please." "That's very flattering," Zara said carefully, "but I have some questions first." There was a pause. She could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "Okay, ask me anything." "Tell me about neurotech solutions," she said. The pause lasted longer this time. Long enough for Zara to know that she'd hit a nerve. Long enough for her to know that Marcus was deciding what lie to tell her. "Neurotech was a startup we acquired 18 months ago," Marcus said finally, his voice carefully controlled. "They had some promising research. We integrated their technology into our systems." "And the founders," Zara pressed, "what happened to them?" "They moved on to other projects," Marcus said, too quickly, too smoothly. "They're consulting on other ventures now." "That's interesting," Zara said, "because I can't find any evidence of them doing anything since the acquisition. It's like they disappeared." "Zara," Marcus's voice hardened, "where is this coming from?" "I'm just trying to understand what I'm walking into," she said. "If I come work for you, I want to know who I'm working for. I want to know if you're the kind of person who steals other people's research and makes them disappear." She heard him exhale sharply. "You've done your research." "I have," Zara confirmed. "Then you know that what happened with neurotech was complicated," Marcus said, his voice dropping. "You know that sometimes in business, things are messy. Sometimes brilliant people need to be protected from themselves. Sometimes innovation requires hard choices." "That's not an answer," Zara said. "That's a non-answer wrapped in justification." "You want the real answer." Marcus's voice was suddenly raw, vulnerable, desperate. "Fine. Neurotech was brilliant. They had developed the exact technology we needed, but they didn't understand its potential. They wanted to release it open source. They wanted to give it away to the world. Do you understand what that would have done? It would have destroyed the entire distributed ledger market. It would have made our company worthless. It would have made their own work worthless." "So you stole it," Zara said quietly. "I saved it," Marcus countered, and there was anger in his voice now. "I saved it from being destroyed by idealistic fools who didn't understand that innovation requires capital, that research requires funding, that changing the world isn't free. I gave them $20 million. I made them rich, and I saved their technology from being wasted." You made them disappear, Zara said. I made them safe, Marcus said. One of them wanted to go public about the acquisition. He wanted to tell the media that we'd stolen from them. My lawyers handled it. We made it worth his while to stay quiet. And yes, Zara, it was complicated. Yes, it was messy, but it was necessary. Zara's hand was shaking as she held the phone. You're asking me to be complicit in this. You're asking me to come work for you knowing what you did. I'm asking you to come work for me because you're brilliant, Marcus said, and his voice had shifted again, softer now, almost pleading. I'm asking you to come work for me because I need someone I can trust, someone who understands that the world isn't black and white, someone who understands that sometimes you have to bend the rules to build something great. I'm not that person, Zara whispered. You are, Marcus said. You are exactly that person. Because right now you're the only person who knows what I did, and you're still on the phone with me. That means some part of you understands. Some part of you knows that what I did wasn't evil. It was just business. Zara's stomach twisted. He was right. Some part of her did understand. Some part of her could see his logic, twisted as it was, and that terrified her more than anything else had. What happens if I say no? She asked. The pause that followed was heavy with meaning. Then we have a problem, Marcus said quietly. Because you know too much, Zara, and I can't have people knowing too much about me. Are you threatening me? Zara asked, her voice steady even as her heart raced. No, Marcus said. I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you the truth about who I am and what I'm capable of. And I'm giving you the choice to be part of something great or to walk away and pretend this never happened. And if I walk away, then you walk away, Marcus said, and I never contact you again, and you never speak about this conversation to anyone, because if you do, Zara, I will destroy you. I will make sure that no tech company in the world ever hires you again. I will sue you for defamation. I will make your life so difficult that you'll wish you never met me at that coffee shop. Zara hung up the phone. Her hands were shaking. Her entire body was shaking. She sat in her apartment in the early morning light, staring at her phone, realizing that she just made an enemy of one of the most powerful men in technology. She'd just become the person who knew his secret. She just put herself in danger. And she had no idea what to do about it. Zara spent the next 3 days in a state of controlled panic. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She obsessively checked her phone, waiting for Marcus to make good on his threats, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But nothing happened. No lawsuits. No cease and desist letters. No mysterious people showing up at her apartment. Just silence. The kind of silence that was somehow more terrifying than any explicit threat could have been. On the 4th day, her phone rang. Unknown number. Her heart jumped into her throat. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Chen, a woman's voice, professional and cold. My name is Detective Sarah Mitchell with the New York City Police Department. I need to ask you some questions about Marcus Sterling. Zara's mouth went dry. What kind of questions? Are you available to meet today? The detective asked. In person would be better. They met at a coffee shop in Manhattan, not Beacon Coffee, but somewhere equally upscale. Detective Mitchell was a black woman in her 50s, sharp-eyed and tired in the way that came from years of dealing with crimes that powerful people committed. She ordered black coffee and got straight to business. We've been investigating Sterling Technologies for the past 6 months, Mitchell said, sliding a folder across the table. White-collar crime, fraud, intellectual property theft. We have evidence that Marcus Sterling acquired technology from Neurotech Solutions through coercion and misrepresentation. We have testimony from one of the founders, and we need your statement. Zara opened the folder. Inside were photographs, bank records, emails, and a statement from Dr. James Park detailing exactly how Marcus Sterling had threatened him, blackmailed him, and forced him to sign away his life's work. How did you know to talk to me? Zara asked. We didn't, Mitchell said. Not at first, But Marcus Sterling made a mistake. He got nervous. He contacted his lawyers. His lawyers contacted other people. And those other people made phone calls that got flagged in our investigation. We've been watching Sterling Technologies for months. We were just waiting for the right moment to move. Then we got a tip about a woman at Beacon Coffee, a woman who was smart enough to figure out the token distribution velocity problem. A woman Marcus Sterling was desperately trying to recruit. "He told you about me?" Zara asked, shocked. "He told his lawyers about you," Mitchell corrected. "And his lawyers are cooperating with us now because they realized they were about to go down with his ship. They gave us the recording of your phone call with Marcus, the one where he threatened you." Zara felt the blood drain from her face. That phone call, the one where he'd said he would destroy her, the one where he'd admitted to blackmailing Neurotech, it had been recorded. "We need you to testify," Mitchell said. "We need you to tell the grand jury what Marcus Sterling told you about Neurotech. We need you to corroborate Dr. Park's statement. With your testimony, we can move forward with formal charges." "What happens if I do?" Zara asked. "Then Marcus Sterling continues to operate freely," Mitchell said, "and he finds another brilliant person to manipulate, and the cycle continues. But more importantly, you become a loose end, and men like Marcus Sterling don't leave loose ends." Zara thought about that conversation at the coffee shop, about how Marcus had seemed so desperate, so genuine, so convinced that he was doing the right thing. She thought about the 3 Neurotech founders, forced to disappear, forced to stay silent, forced to live with the knowledge that their life's work had been stolen. "I'll testify," she said. What followed was a whirlwind: depositions, grand jury proceedings, lawyers and legal teams, and endless questioning. Marcus Sterling's entire empire began to crumble in real time. News outlets started investigating. His board of directors demanded answers. Stock prices plummeted. And through it all, Zara received a series of messages from unknown numbers, threats, offers, desperate pleas. One message came directly from Marcus. "You had a choice, Zara. You chose to destroy me. I hope you can live with that. I hope you can sleep at night knowing that you've taken everything from me." But Zara could sleep, because she finally understood that Marcus Sterling had never really wanted her. He wanted her complicity. He wanted her silence. He wanted her to be part of his crime. And when she refused, when she chose the truth over his version of reality, he showed her who he really was. A man willing to threaten, blackmail, and destroy anyone who got in his way. The trial took 6 months. It was high profile, covered by every major news outlet. Marcus Sterling's lawyers fought hard, but the evidence was overwhelming. Email trails, bank records, testimony from 3 Neurotech founders, and Zara's testimony about the threats he'd made, the desperation in his voice, the casual way he'd talked about destroying her life if she didn't cooperate. On the day of the verdict, Zara sat in the courtroom gallery. Marcus Sterling sat at the defense table, looking smaller, somehow diminished. When the jury foreman stood up and read guilty on all counts, Zara saw something break in his face. Not remorse, not understanding, just the realization that he'd lost. He was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison for fraud and coercion. His company was seized. His assets were frozen. The 3 Neurotech founders filed a civil lawsuit and settled for a reported $150 million. And Zara received an offer from every major tech company in Silicon Valley. Google wanted her. Apple wanted her. Microsoft wanted her. She chose a smaller company, a startup founded by women, committed to ethical innovation, committed to doing business the right way. She became their chief technology officer at 28 years old, and every day she thought about that moment at Beacon Coffee when a stranger had sat at the wrong table and changed her life forever. Sometimes, late at night when she couldn't sleep, she wondered what would have happened if she'd said yes to Marcus Sterling's offer. What if she'd chosen ambition over integrity? What if she'd chosen money over morality? What if she'd decided that the world really was just shades of gray, and that sometimes you had to bend the rules to build something great. She would have become complicit in a crime. She would have become the kind of person who looked away from injustice because it benefited her. She would have become exactly the thing she despised. Instead, she became the person who stopped a billionaire from stealing, from threatening, from destroying the lives of brilliant people who dared to dream of a better world. She became the person who chose truth over comfort. She became the person who understood that one conversation, one moment, one choice could change everything. And that, she realized, was worth more than any amount of money Marcus Sterling could have offered her. The woman who accidentally sat at the wrong coffee shop table had become the person who brought down one of tech's most powerful men. She'd done it by being brave enough to ask questions, brave enough to do her research, brave enough to choose integrity over opportunity, brave enough to testify against someone who had everything to lose. So if you're watching this and you ever find yourself in a situation where you have to choose between what's easy and what's right, remember Zara Chen. Remember that one person can make a difference. Remember that truth matters. Remember that your character is worth more than any paycheck. Subscribe to this channel for more stories like this one, like this video. What would you have done in Zara's position? Would you have said yes to Marcus Sterling's offer, or would you have done what Zara did? I would love to see your responses in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.